Hey folks, this is Patrick bringing you a message from Leia, the roof mistress of our very own con, Spoilers Con. Leia will be holding a contest for new cover art. The winnable bounty? A bunch of Watts Spoilers swag, so we know you're super stoked. Submissions are due by the 15th of January.
And voting is from the 16th to the 25th of January.
And you can email them to spoilerscon@gmail.com. That's SPOILERSCON@gmail. The whole Watt Spoilers community will have a chance to vote on their favorite art. The winner will receive all that swag and, of course, all of the bragging rights as well. More details can be found at the SpoilerCon website. Is that spoilercon.org, Seth? No double S there, just SPOILERCON.org.
That is correct. The website is spoilercon.org. However, the email is spoilerscon.org with a plural. So keep that in mind.
Remain vigilant. So don't forget to follow SpoilerCon on Twitter. That's at SpoilersCon. SpoilersCon at Twitter. Also, if you're interested in joining us for SpoilerCon 2019, check out the website and sign up for more info. The Roof Mistress is trying to plan for next year, and it will be super helpful if we can at least know approximately how many people we're going to be accommodating for the second annual SpoilersCon.
It's going to be fantastic. I already, the whole group that was there last year is going to be there again this year. And on top of that, there's going to be a whole new crop of folks.
Yeah, and last year there was only I don't know. I mean, it was a good amount of notice, but for some people to travel across the country, they're going to need a bit more notice than a few months or whatever it was.
I think it was about a month.
A month?
It was a month.
I can't believe that many people showed up with that little notice.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, well, next year will be even bigger, we're sure, and we hope to see you there.
And we're thinking end of September, early October. We don't have a firm date yet.
This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Hi, I'm Seth.
And I'm Patrick. We are doing tonight Chapter 13, Rumors, and our symbol is the 5 die. 5 sixes.
You happen to notice that Lucky 13 is the dice? I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I think it works really well.
I hope it is. The tavern's business rocked along like any in the mall, a wagon load of geese and crockery careering downhill through the night. The babble of voices fought with the musicians' offerings on 3 assorted drums, 2 hammered dulcimers, and a bulbous seam-seer that produced whining trills. The serving maids in dark, ankle-length dresses, with necks up to the chin, and short white aprons hustled between crowded tables, holding clusters of pottery mugs overhead so they could squeeze through. Barefoot, leather-vested dockmen mixed with fellows in coats tight to the waist, and bare-chested men with broad, colorful sashes to hold up their baggy breeches. So close to the docks, vestments of outlanders were everywhere among the crowd. High collars from the north and long collars from the west, silver chains on coats and bells on vests, knee-high boots and thigh-high boots, necklaces or earrings on men, lace on coats or shirts. One man, with wide shoulders and a big belly, had a forked yellow beard, and another had smeared something on his mustaches to make them glisten in the lamplight and curl up on either side of his narrow face. Dice rolled and tumbled in 3 corners of the room, and on a number of tabletops, silver changing hand briskly to shouts and laughter. Matt sat alone with his back to the wall, where he could see all the doors, though mostly he peered into a still untouched mug of dark wine. He did not go near the dice games, and he never glanced at the serving girls' ankles. With the tavern so crowded, men occasionally thought to share his table, but a good look at his face made them sheer away and crowd onto a bench elsewhere. Dipping a finger in his wine, he sketched aimlessly on the tabletop. These fools had no idea what had happened in the stone tonight. He had heard a few Terrans mention some kind of trouble, quick words that trailed off into nervous laughter. They did not know and did not want to. He almost wished he did not know himself. No, he wished he had a better idea of what had happened, The images kept flashing in his head, flashing through the holes in his memory, making no real sense.
So he's sitting there at the table with his finger drawing the red stone terangrial over and over and over again on the table.
Is that what he's doing?
There's a sentence a little bit later where he says, next page, Matt shook his head. The stone had fallen in Kalendor and Rand's hand, and this idiot still thought he was another false dragon. He had sketched that doorway again. Rubbing a hand through it, he grabbed up the mug of wine.
Oh, good catch.
So that's him just basically, he's thinking about the night before, or the evening earlier when he'd been attacked. The cards have come alive, and he's like, what do I do? And he's just sitting there thinking about that doorway, drawing it in wine over and over and over again.
I love it. And he's in his head. So, like, he almost died, like, hours ago. And he's in this room full of, like, happy, laughing people. And this brutal scene is playing over and over in his head. I kind of want to read it, even though there was no real break in there.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to read all the way through, but...
I do have one other point.
Sure.
Historically, to careen means to tilt or tip over, and to career means to rush, perhaps recklessly.
I don't know that I've ever heard that before. Of course, I've read this book like 10 times, but
Right.
I never noticed it.
This is a distinction that every copy editor in the U.S. knows by rote, but also one that nobody but a copier editor ever observes. In practice, most people use careen to describe a vehicle lurching out of control.
Good to know.
I was like, "That you're right. Career does sound odd in that
It's like, is that a
situation." Yeah, but it's not a job. It's not a long-term career. But apparently, career and careen are. Jordan
Career
is
means
using
to
them
move.
correctly in that sense.
Gotcha.
That they're rushing rather than tipping over.
So Matt's sitting at this table, drawing in wine, in a bad mood, and we have a memory here of earlier in the night. The din of fighting somewhere in the distance echoed down the corridor, dulled by the wall hangings. He retrieved his knife from the gray man's corpse with a shaking hand. A gray man, and hunting him. It had to have been after him. Gray men did not wander about killing at random. They had targets, as surely as an arrow. He turned to run, and there was a murderal striding toward him like a black snake on legs, its pasty-faced, eyeless stare sending shivers into his bones. At 30 paces, he hurled the knife straight at where an eye should have been. At that distance, he could hit a knothole no larger than an eye, 4 times in 5. The Fade's black sword blurred as it knocked the dagger away, almost casually. It did not even break stride. I wish I could do a Murdral voice. If I could whisper loudly enough, they would sound like that.
Time to die, horn sounder.
Its voice was a red adder's dry hiss, warning of death. Matt backed away. He had a knife in either hand now, though he did not remember drawing them. Not that knives would be much good against a sword, but running meant that black blade in his back as sure as 5 6s beat 4 3s. He wished he had a good quarterstaff, or a bow. He would like to see this thing try to deflect a shaft from a Two Rivers longbow. He wished he were somewhere else. He was going to die. Here. Suddenly, a dozen Trollocs roared out of a side hallway, piling onto the Fade in a frenzy of chopping axes and stabbing swords. Matt stared in amazed disbelief. The half-man fought like a black-armored whirlwind. More than half of the Trollocs were dead or dying before the Fade lay twitching in a heap. One arm flexed and thrashed like a dying snake 3 paces away from the body, still with that black sword in its fist. A ram-horned Trolloc peered toward Matt, snout lifted to sniff the air. It snarled at him, then whined and began licking a long gash that had laid open mail on a hairy forearm. The others finished cutting the throats of their wounded, and one barked a few harsh, guttural words. Without another glance at Matt, they turned and trotted away, hooves and boots making hollow sounds on the stone floor.
So that's a nice little flashback to when their attack on the stone.
It was too good.
So good, yeah. Because we get to see what Rand's doing, but we don't see Matt.
Yeah, but we got a flashback instead.
And there's a couple of bits. First of all, the Shadow knows Matt is the horn sounder.
Yes.
That's an important little tidbit there. And that's why they've been hunting him this whole time. All those thieving attempts that keep happening, where cutthroats, and he's always like, in Tarvalon, he's like, oh, those thieves that keep showing up over and over again. It's all dark friends, Matt.
They're not thieves.
They're not thieves. And then where he wishes he had a good quarterstaff, or Ashendarai, you know.
It's a strange spear you carry, Matrim Cawthon.
And then, of course, this is another, we see that the Trollocs sent by Semirog are there actually save his life. Just the way
Yes.
they save Rand's life. So it's such a weird, it's an odd moment where the Dark One actually sends Trollocs to save them in the stone.
Mm-hmm.
And to help them in the stone. It's a very odd moment. And, you know, it just makes me question the Dark One's motives all that much more.
They have to live to give up.
They have to live to fail.
I thought about that a lot while reading this short chapter, that the Dark One's real motive, insofar as involving himself with these Ta'veren, is to crush their spirit, right? To make their world hellish and terrible so that they'll just give up. Because he can't win if they just don't give up.
Right. He doesn't seem to have the power to break the world.
Not without them.
The Dragon Mount Veins of Gold was the Dark One's best attempt to destroy the world. All of this plot and torture and weird motivational stuff, to me, always seemed to be an attempt to get into Rand's head.
Yeah, it
and
is.
make him despair.
And the purpose is to break their spirit. And I also had the passing thought, how you and I never really noticed until we were doing this podcast, but we learn in Memory of Light that the purpose really is to break their spirit so that they give the world to the Dio, more or less, in a nutshell. And of course, RJ makes the three boys plus Egwene and Nynaeve come from this backwards people, kind of out of the way, off the map, and they're like the toughest, most stubborn people. They're like, these people aren't gonna give up. He gives us that right in the beginning.
Yeah.
And, to sum it up that way makes it seem cheap, but it took me like 6 read-throughs to figure that, to come to that conclusion. So, he set us up right from the beginning to pick the perfect heroes for this task.
That the most important facet of somebody's personality is their ability to
just
be
will
stubborn
and grit,
withstand torture and terrible circumstances, and just rise back up. It's the whole, wolves may kill the sheep and
hail beats down the crops.
Yeah, hail beats down the crops, but the Two Rivers rises up again. And that's what you have here with these characters being beaten down over and over and over and over again.
Right.
And they just rise right back up again.
And the Wheel of Time is that story, which is also the kind of the same story as the story of Manetheren, right? The ancient story of their people.
Thorn in the side of the Dark One.
Right.
I bet he wishes he'd finished the job.
Not a knife blade, not a sword, just a thorn. Just annoying. Stubborn, annoying. Can't kill him.
Thorns and wounds in the side have a whole other symbolism as well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
When someone says a thorn in your side, I sort of think of, isn't that Jesus imagery with the wound in his side?
Oh, the spear in the side, yeah. I always think of the lion with a thorn in its paw. Do you remember that children's story? Where the mouse makes an alliance with the lion because the lion can't pull the thorn out, but the mouse can. Oh, it's an Aesop's fable? My mom read those to me a lot as a kid.
A lot like The Fox and the Raven?
Yeah, The Fox and the Raven is another Aesop's fable. What? It's just rolling around on the ground.
Okay, he got scratches.
Trollocs to the rescue. What had Rand gotten him into now? It's always Rand's fault.
Of course it's Rand's fault. It's always somebody else's fault. Remember that.
Yeah. So Matt's sitting in this inn, kind of passively listening to what's happening around him, but also lost in thought. And I kind of enjoyed that he's looking over at this table, and we see the description here, and it's really not too much to speak of as far as the people who are at it. They're just kind of a random group of people who didn't know each other before. So there's like a Kyrianan guy, there's a Kandori merchant, and 2 Terran sailors.
Basically a motley crew that you meet up in a tavern.
Right.
It's,
I did kind of want to make note that there's a once fat man with sagging jowls and a dark Kyrianan coat. So this guy is a refugee who was once wealthy and fat, and now he's thin. And Matt can tell, like, he lost a lot of weight rapidly.
Well,
he has this sagging skin.
Tom plunged that whole country into chaos.
Yeah, so the people of Kyrian are still starving. And there's some throwaway line in here. A good many Kyrianan refugees had come down far in the world.
Well, there's not much left in the city with all the war. And, that was definitely Rand's Taviran twisting causing all of that to begin with. He tore that place apart just by passing through.
Yeah.
There's some talk about Logain, and I noticed they get the one up in Saldea wrong.
Yeah.
They call him Massim.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you mean Mazrim Taim?
Close. And Matt overhears somebody talking about the two rivers, and he just stands up and walks right over to the table.
Yeah, saying that we're not getting any of the tobacco out of there because of the white cloaks.
The talk ceased as all eyes swung to Matt when he stopped at their table. Of course, he's in like a horrible mood, and I imagine he's just like 1,000 yards staring through them.
I mean, people have been avoiding him all day anyway.
I heard you mention the two rivers, and everybody's like, yes?
I kind of imagine an old spaghetti western where, like, there's a guy sitting in the corner drinking, and then, like, they say something, and he slams the cup down, and he goes, "What did you say?" Music screeches to a halt.
More or less. He doesn't exclaim or anything or curse at them. He just says, he's just abrupt and strange. But the fork-bearded man, the Kandori, says, "I did, my lord," he said heartily, which Matt hates. "I was saying there will be no tabac out of there this year, I'll wager. But I have 20 casks of the finest Two Rivers leaf. There is no finer. Fetch an excellent price later in the year. If my lord wishes a cask for his own stock, certain I could manage to..." And then Matt does kind of, "Oh, it's not yelling." He says, "You'll wager that, will you?" Matt said softly, "Why would there be no tabac out of the Two Rivers?" And then the Kandori dissembles and says, "Well, White Cloaks are riding all over that place. Nothing good ever happens when the White Cloaks take over a town."
No, although I do wonder, White Cloaks tend to take over a lot of towns. Why would I guess it takes a while for the rumors of the Two Rivers being taken over to get there.
Sure, they're on the other side of the, if not continent, then they're on the other side of Randland.
I'm trying to think. They're in Tyr. Yeah, that's pretty far away.
But Tyr is on the other side of the landmass, so however far it is across Randland. 900 miles, a radius has, between Tyr and the Two Rivers.
It's a good amount of distance for a rumor to travel. I was just wondering who cares about the Two Rivers? Like, really, it must just be the Tabak. Seems like all everyone cares about.
Yeah, that's why. Nobody cares for any other reason.
That is some sticky Tabak.
"What about White Cloaks?" Matt says. Managing a seated bow, the merchant put on an ingratiating tone. "The rumor is, my lord, that the White Cloaks have gone into the Two Rivers, hunting the Dragon Reborn, it's said. Though, of course, that cannot be, since the Lord Dragon is here, in Tyr." He eyed Matt to see how that had been taken. Matt's face did not change. "These rumors can run very wild, my lord. Perhaps it's only wind in a bucket. The same rumor claims that the White Cloaks are after some dark friend with yellow eyes, too. Did you ever hear of a man with yellow eyes, my lord? Nor have I. Wind in a bucket."
Rand and Perrin. Obviously that he's like, those two and who else? Clearly the third person he thinks is going to be him.
Then Matt tries to grill him for anything else that he has, and when he doesn't seem to know anything, he leaves a gold coin on the table and says, "Here, for your drinks," and he storms out. It says, there's like a pile of the wooden clogs outside of the tavern, and he just grabs any.
Doesn't really matter.
He doesn't care if they're his or not.
No.
Puts them on, straps them to his boots, walks as quickly as he can, but badly, and through the muddy section of the mall, because this is like, I imagine this area is like just above sea level, so it's constantly wet. And when he gets to Stone, when he gets to the inner city, he kicked off the clogs and left them as he ran on.
I like where he says, "I would not be a lord if it was offered to him," or kind of gets forced on him when he's married. So he runs back to Perrin, basically, with the news
Sprints
of
back, and
the Two River attack.
Perrin's already packing when he comes into the room.
Because Perrin's been out there searching for rumors to draw Fael away.
Yeah.
And instead he found something to draw him away. Because clearly, I mean, if they're looking for the Dragon Reborn and a guy with yellow eyes, they're looking for Perrin.
He ran all the way to Perrin's room and flung open the door, barely noticing the splintered split in the wood. Perrin's saddlebags lay on the bed, and Perrin was stuffing shirts and stockings into them. There was only one candle lit, but he did not seem to notice the gloom. "You've heard, then," Matt said.
Yep, sure have.
We already knew, but I kind of like that people are really starting to notice the odd things that Perrin does. Like later in the series, we see him do things like he'll see a rider approaching and he waits before he says anything because he knows that nobody else can see. So he's in his like big room with a single candle lit on a dark night before electricity, you know? So there's no, it's really dark in there.
Yeah. He's like, what are you doing in the dark? He's like, oh, it's dark?
And that's
All right.
like, he must have just not really noticed the gloom in his haste to get his bags packed.
This is before we really get, and before he notices that other people are noticing it.
Yeah.
So he's not really hiding it yet. Because it's just like, it's so natural to him to just be able to see in the dark.
Matt asks him if he believes it, but Perrin says, "There doesn't seem to be much doubt to me. It's too close to the truth to be a lie." It's like, this is something they would do.
Well, and also
it makes sense.
When they're saying he said he would do it, he said he would, I should have believed him.
Oh, that's Rand saying that.
Perrin is saying that Rand said that.
Yeah.
Got it.
He started muttering to himself.
Who's the he there?
Fane?
Because Fane said he would threaten the Two Rivers.
I'll read this because I see it as important. Perrin paused, staring at the folded cloak in his hands. He started muttering to himself. He said he'd do it. He said he would. I should have believed him. Like that. It made no sense. Then he grabbed me by the collar and said he had to do what they don't expect. He wanted me to understand, but I'm not certain he does himself. He didn't seem to care whether I leave or stay. No, I take that back. I think he was relieved I'm leaving.
Because that way Perrin can take responsibility for the Two Rivers while Rand goes off and does what's unexpected, which is, the expected thing would be to rush to the Two Rivers to protect his family or start a war with Ilian.
Yeah.
And Samuel. What he's doing instead is rushing off to the Waste in order to, A, run away from everybody, and B, recruit a large army to his cause. That's the unexpected thing, is going off to the Waste. Because he's going to announce his plan, I think, like tonight or tomorrow night, something like that.
I think tomorrow. Because today, I'm trying to get the timeline straight in my head. Hold up. Have they slept since the Bubble of Evil?
Right. This is the night of the attack, which happened
right
3 days after the Bubble of Evil.
Oh, 3 days. Okay.
Right. So because the Bubble of Evil happened, and then I feel like there was that 3-day break, and then there was the attack on the stone, and then this is that night.
Right. So there's the battle for the stone, where the Aiel come and randomly meet Rand there, and then a few nights after that, there's the Bubble of Evil. And a few nights after that, there's the battle in the stone.
I think there's a longer period of time between Rand taking Kalendor and the Bubble of Evil.
Gotcha.
I think that's a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Rand is the king for a while, and there's a lot of politics that happen and changing of laws, and a lot of stuff goes on.
That's right. It's so compressed. Yes, and Elaine canoodling, says Talir.
And that sort of happens in the last 3 days of that period of time. Let's just say it hasn't been a relaxing time in the stone.
Right.
Which is funny because for a place that seems impenetrable, there sure are a lot of battles inside of it.
Matt says, you're going, aren't you?
And he's like, well, yeah, Rand's not doing anything.
Alone? He says, yeah, unless you're coming.
No, he's totally caught up in a different Ta'Veren twisting.
You don't have to, Perrin said quietly. Nothing I heard mentioned you. Only Rand and me. And Matt tries to say that he wants to go.
He definitely wants to go.
He's worried about his sisters, and he's like having, I feel like, all the feelings that Perrin is, but he literally cannot say it. He tries to say it out loud. This is like a moment in, like, you remember that movie Liar Liar? The old Jim Carrey movie? He
movie.
tries to lie, but he can't. And so Matt tries to say it, but there's a line here. His throat tightened up to strangle the words. Is it easy for you, Perrin? Going, I mean? Don't you feel anything? Trying to hold you back? Telling you reasons you shouldn't go? 100 of them, Matt. But I know it comes down to Rand and to Varen. You won't admit that, will you? 100 reasons to stay, but the one reason to go outweighs them. The White Cloaks are in the Two Rivers, and they'll hurt people trying to find me. I can stop it, if I go.
It's too late.
Yeah.
His family's already dead. But yeah, this is the Taviran twisting that pulls those two apart, is that the White Cloaks are looking for Perrin. They're not looking for Matt.
And I believe, while I was reading this, I think that the pattern wants Perrin to go and Matt to stay.
Yes, absolutely.
So Matt can't go. Matt wants to go, and he can't seem to bring himself to even say the words out loud that he wants to go, that he's going.
He still needs to find his power. He has to go through both doorways.
Yeah.
And he needs to get his memories replaced.
He has to go to the basement of the stone tonight.
Yeah.
And he has to go to Ruidian.
Exactly.
Then he can break away and do his own thing.
But meanwhile, Perrin needs to go forge his army and become the king of the Two Rivers.
Yes.
And basically bring, he also has to learn about Teleron Riyadh and the Wolf Dream, but that doesn't happen for a while. But
by the time he's moving back the other way across the continent, there's hundreds of people following him. And by the time he makes it halfway across, there's thousands.
Yeah, and then he starts recruiting Sean Chan and White Cloaks and Hole and...
Sean Chan?
Oh, well, I guess that's right before the last battle.
Oh, right, yeah. His hodgepodge armies.
He is a uniter, not a divider. He forges things together, you might say.
Matt destroys things. That's not really true. He does draw a lot of people to follow him.
Yeah, he creates the band.
And Perrin mentions that the White Cloaks know his name, which means they know his surname, so his family's name. And that's more or less the real reason. What is making him really anxiety sweat.
Sure, because Matt's like, well, don't worry about it. They don't know who you are. They just know you're a guy with yellow eyes. And he's like,
Yeah, right. And that's pretty smart of Matt, really, because he's like, if they show up in the Two Rivers asking after a man with yellow eyes, everybody will laugh at them.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
You didn't have yellow eyes when we were in the Two Rivers. That didn't happen until later. When Perrin gives his real name to the White Cloaks, I always thought that was a mistake.
It is. It definitely was.
And also, they're kind of like, I noticed that Matt's a little pissed that Rand won't go to the Two Rivers and just wipe the White Cloaks out. You saw what he did to the Trollocs. He could just destroy the White Cloaks.
Yeah.
But what Rand has to do is, it's basically he can't negotiate with terrorists. If he gives in to a threat to the Two Rivers the first time, people will know that threatening the Two Rivers works.
Right. And he has things to do. And Rand has a good instinct, although he already sounds insane when Perrin's repeating his words back to us. He sounds really crazy. Rand is correct. He's doing the right thing. His enemies are trying to manipulate him, and he just, every time he does what nobody expects, which is a great a great strategy. Threaten the Two Rivers, Rand goes to the Aiel Waste, you know?
He makes them react to him instead of the other way around.
Exactly. Keep them on their toes. Perrin says at one point, different paths. We've been sent down different paths before. Different paths be bloodied, Matt grunted. And then Perrin clearly saying goodbye a couple lines after that.
Mm-hmm.
I hope your path is a happy one, Matt. The light send you pretty girls and fools who want to gamble. Oh, burn me, Perrin. The light send you what you want, too.
Well,
whatever that is.
Perrin's response is, I expect it will. He's going to the Two Rivers to turn himself in and be executed.
Death.
So what he wants, and I'm putting that in quotes, is to be killed to save his family. So when Matt says, the light send you what you want, he's like, yeah, I guess I want to die.
He did not sound happy at the prospect. Will you tell my da I'm all right? And my mother? She always did worry. And look after my sisters. They used to spy on me and tell Mother everything, but I wouldn't want anything to happen to them. I promise, Matt. Closing the door behind him, Matt wandered down the hallways aimlessly.
everyone in Matt's life really can channel. His sisters, his
Oh,
wife.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, Bode becomes
Don't both his sisters get recruited?
I know Bode does. I can't remember about the other ones.
And his wife, Tuan,
Yeah,
is an untrained channeler.
everybody.
They have kids. Like, it's for sure. It's like he's the only non-redhead in his family. Like,
I love those family pictures where it's like the wife and 6 daughters, and they're all like bright red hair, and then the dad has like blonde or brown hair.
Radio says only one of his sisters has the...
Just Bode.
He saw Berlane coming down and grinned in spite of himself.
She is a pretty woman.
I love Matt's perspectives. I'm just out of context. A considerable amount of excellent pale bosom. And of course, she just kind of like storms by him when he's trying to talk to her. And he's like, hey, you're not even going to acknowledge my existence? And she turns around and looks at him and she just mumbles, too much like me.
She gives him like a
And leaves.
hard look up and down, like reads every bit about him, can tell he's a player. And she's like, no. Just no way. Which, I mean, her reaction between Matt and Perrin is fantastic because, like, she's totally into Perrin. She reads Perrin wrong, too.
Yeah.
Or I guess I should say she reads Perrin wrong. She reads Matt totally right.
Berlane is just a player.
Oh, yeah. She's looking for power. And she knows that no matter what she does with Matt, she'll never get power out of him.
You're never going to get anything out of Matt.
Right.
I mean, partly for power, but I really see Berlane as, like, she just enjoys the pleasure of picking up men.
Oh, the chase? Absolutely.
The hunt, more like. Just trying to give it a little bit more of a malicious, dangerous sound.
Like a hawk going after its prey.
Oh, yeah, she is the hawk.
It's also the Hawk of Mayan, I think, is like one of her titles.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Too Much Like Me is such, I mean, that's one of those, like, just perfect lines.
He stared after her in amazement. Not a word to him. That face, that walk, and her nose so far in the air it was a wonder her feet touched the ground. That was what he got, speaking to the likes of Berlane and Elaine, nobles who thought you were dirt unless you had a palace and bloodlines back to Arthur Hawkwing. Well, he knew a plump cook's helper, just plump enough, who did not think he was dirt. Dara had a way of nibbling his ears that his thoughts stopped dead in their tracks.
He does like the plump maids.
No comment.
That's one of the things he says once he's with Tuan, is he's like, what am I doing? She's like skinny and I like him just plump. I don't know what's going on here. And then like as time passes and he spends more time with her, he's like, actually she fits really well under my arm, and like there's this whole change in attitude about
I think people's type often ends up being whoever you're with. His thoughts stopped dead in their tracks. He had been considering seeing whether Dara was awake and up for a cuddle. He had even considered flirting with Berlane. Berlane! And the last words he had said to Perrin, look after my sisters. As if he had already decided, already knew what to do. Only he had not. He would not. Not so easily. Just sliding into it. There was a way, perhaps. Digging a gold coin from his pocket, he flipped it into the air and snatched it onto the back of his other hand. A Tarvalin mark, he saw for the first time, and he was staring at the flame of Tarvalin, stylized like a teardrop. Burn all Aes Sedai, he announced loudly, and burn Randall Thor for getting me into this. A black and gold liveried servant stopped in mid-stride, staring at him worriedly. The man's silver tray was piled high with rolled bandages and jars of ointment. As soon as he realized Matt had seen him, he gave a jump. Matt tossed the gold mark onto the man's tray. From the biggest fool in the world, mind you spend it well, on women and wine. Thank you, my lord, the man stammered as if stunned. Matt left him standing there. The biggest fool in the world, aren't I just? He's going.
maybe a little bit. Notice the silver tray is piled high with bandages because of the battle earlier.
Hours ago.
Yeah, just hours ago. Nothing really there other than him considering going into the twisted stone Terangrial. He's like, I know a way.
That's how he decides, yeah.
He flips a coin.
Heads, that get out of here. Tails, that go through that doorway.
And because, the doorway, the flame represents the power, and the doorway represents something to do with the power to him. So the fact that the flame came up is like
I'm nodding.
particularly ironic.
I'm really bad at sitting down and focusing for a long period of time. Sometimes I feel like that's why my job is good for me.
Keeps you doing lots of different things.
If a task takes 60 seconds, that's really long.
Right.
Especially when it's busy.
But you're always managing 3, 4, 5 tasks at the same time.
Right. You're trying to line everything up.
I'm a one-task pony.
See, I feel like it works better for me because I just keep, once one task is done, there's always a running list in my head, especially if I'm busy, of like half a dozen tasks. And as I knock down one, I look around the room and find the next one and add it to the stack. Just move through it so that you never stop moving. Unless I'm talking to someone. Then you kind of have to stop.
That's amazing how much that interrupts the rest of the flow.
Yeah.
Are you getting better at or are you good at being able to continue to make a drink while you talk to somebody, or is that just really hard?
Well, the trouble is I do stuff like that, but say Andrew comes in, who's a regular at my bar, guys, Seth knows who he is. I can be doing making 2 cocktails and I can be like, "What's up, buddy? Pilsner?" And he's like, "Yup." And I'm like, "Medium cheddar fries?" And he's like, "Yup." And I know because I know what he's going to do.
Right.
But
you don't have to remember anything because you already know it.
Yeah, not really. I'm just looking for the 2 yups. And then but if I start asking a random customer what would you like to drink or what do you want to eat, it may turn into a conversation, and that I can't really have a conversation while I'm making lots of little measurements or something,
trying to keep track of all the stuff.
Yeah. And I'm frankly not so hot on the cocktails. I have to I just don't have all the recipes memorized, so I have my cheat sheet.
You can't make that many cocktails there.
Not a ton in a dinner shift. I don't know. It's hard to estimate. On Monday night, I probably make 20 all night.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?